He is a staple of New Orleans sports broadcasters for 4 decades now and has served as sports director and the host of Friday Night Football on WGNO, ABC 26, and NOLA 38 since the beginning of the 1990s. Two-time Louisiana Sportscaster of the Year. He hosts Sports Zone each and every Wednesday night at 10:15 on WGNO. Serves as co-host of the 3 Tailgaters show on WGSO 990 AM Saturday mornings 10 to noon. Is a feature columnist for the Clarion Herald and for CrescentCitySports.com, and covers the Saints and Pelicans on a regular basis. Of course, the Saints on the road against the Giants this Sunday afternoon. It's a late game, a 3 o'clock window, and the Pelicans just started training camp today. Please give a warm quarterback club welcome to Ed Daniels. Ed?
Thank you, Kenneth. Hope you don't mind. I had to put my glasses on so I could see you out there. It's getting to be a little bit of a struggle on occasion. Well, I'm sorry the coach has left. I will tell the Jesuit people that I have nominated Mark Sonji for the Frank Monica J. Roth Sandbag Hall of Fame, because in the summer and the spring I talked to Mark Sonji and he was just singing the blues. It was just unbelievable. And then I see his team and I see what they're doing. It's just amazing. So the guy he won't fool me again. Okay, he won't fool me again. He's got a good football team. Guy Lecomte's an excellent coach. So I'm really looking forward to Friday's game. One of the things about being the host of the program is I get to pick the game that I go to. And I'm going to Jesuit Holy Cross on Friday night, and really looking forward to it. I know Coach Atkins was here. Tulane's a 14-point underdog at home on Friday night to Memphis. I know he can't talk about that, but their wins, Memphis over Mercer, South Alabama, and Georgia State. So, excuse me, we're not really sure what either one of those teams have yet. But I do know this for sure. Tulane has played a much tougher schedule than Memphis. We'll see maybe if that pays off. I was telling Nathan earlier, I was looking at the college football RPI this morning. And LSU's schedule right now, today, on the college football RPI, the Tigers play 5 of the top 17 teams in the country in the RPI. They play Mississippi State, they're 17. They defeated Miami, they're 14. They beat Auburn, they're 12. Of course, Georgia is 2 and Alabama is 1. And LSU's 5. Tremendous job by the Tigers this year, and I can vouch for the place kicking. Every year when we go to Auburn, it's one of my favorite trips in the SEC. It's a great place if you haven't been there, and the people are truly nice. Not like some other places that you would run into in the state of Alabama, but the people are truly nice there. Well, anyhow, but there's one Auburn guy that I know. He's a good friend, and he doesn't text me whenever Auburn plays at Tiger Stadium. I think he knows that's kind of a lost cause, but he feels a lot better about it when LSU goes to the Plains. Well, I heard from him quite a bit during the week, and I didn't say much, just texting back and forth, good luck, all of that stuff. Well, I was so confident in Cole Tracy that Robert was under the goalpost shooting the field goal, and I was standing on about the 15-yard line, and as a timeout or whatever happened right before that, I typed my text message for my friend from Auburn, and as soon as he hit it, I just looked up and I went send. I just sent it to him because I knew it was going right through. So it's a tremendous opportunity for LSU to have a kicking game like that. Their kicking game has been tremendous. Now, I am here to talk about the Saints. And one thing I will say about the Saints is this. Last year they won 11 games. Their quarterback did not throw for 400 yards once. Not one game last year did he throw for 400 yards. And they won 11 games. So it's great to have a franchise quarterback, but you can't be so quarterback dependent that you don't get other help from other areas on your football team. So Drew Brees has been incredible. You know, it's amazing to me. I got a call after the Cleveland game from a friend of mine, convinced that Brees almost cost the Saints the game. I don't know where that all came from. I guess because of the miss on the pass with Benjamin Watson that was wide open in the end zone. I proceeded to tell him that part of the problem with the Saints game is that they rushed 3 and dropped 8 on 4th down and 5, and Cleveland still got a guy behind the Saints secondary for a touchdown in the 4th quarter. with 8 in coverage, which I thought was pretty interesting. One thing that is alarming about the Saints right now, they're allowing 11.2 yards per pass attempt. That is the worst in the NFL by far. And that has to improve if they're going to be a real good football team. You know, Kenny and I were talking about this the other day, and I agree with him. I think right now the Rams look like the chalk in all of football. One of the things about the Rams that's interesting is they punted 5 times all year. 5 times in 3 games the Rams have punted. And they've been really good offensively and defensively. Here's the thing about the Saints defense. It's one of those things where in your secondary, I think there's only so much you can fix it during the season. I think, you know, one of the things you're going to have to do is upgrade that area in the offseason. And one of the things that I think has also hurt the Saints a little bit is right now they have not gotten a lot of production from their draft class. Remember last year? It was incredible. Lattimore, Kamara, Marcus Williams, Ryan Ramczyk. You could go on and on. They had maybe one of the greatest drafts in the history of the NFL. This year, not so much, and maybe some of the guys last year who were so good were not playing as well. But that's what makes the NFL unique, is a 1-week, 1-year league. You never know what's going to happen from year to year. And if I could honestly tell you what I thought the Saints were going to do the rest of the year, I really can't. I have no idea. The only thing I'm saying is that, and I think Sean Payton mentioned this after the Cleveland game, if you're 2 quarterback dependent and you don't have a defense in a running game, I think you have a ceiling as to how far you can go. And they're going to have to get a lot better on defense. I think when Mark Ingram comes back, it'll definitely help their running game. If anything has helped Mark Ingram in his bid for a new contract extension, it's been his absence for the first 3 games. Because everybody can say, wow, what happened to our running game? Well, he's not there, and he's turned out to be a really good back. So, you know, one of the things I do, and Kenny mentioned this, I write for the Clarion Herald, and one of the things I wrote this week was what the Saints quarterback position looked like before Drew Brees. And as you remember, it was pretty ugly. And we were at Saints training camp in La Crosse, Wisconsin one day, and the Saints were right on the practice field right next to a road by one of the dormitories. So the road is right there, and you can literally drive by and watch the plays as they're going on. So a Saints quarterback drops back to pass. This quarterback has a very strong arm. And the quarterback ran an out, and he overthrew him so badly, there was a truck on the road moving, and he threw it right into the back of the pickup truck. And the truck just kept on going with the ball right in the back of it. That turned out to be one of his best throws all year. So, you know, sometimes I wonder really when I go to the office on Monday and I hear people complaining about Drew Brees, I'm like, I don't know, I have DirecTV, was I watching a different game? I'm really not sure. So, enjoy the quarterback that we have now. It's awfully tough to get a real good one. As you know, what the New York Jets did this year is kind of evidence of that. They traded 3 number 2 picks to move up 3 spots in the draft to have a chance to get a quarterback. And of course, Kansas City looks like a totally different team with Patrick Mahomes. So, who knows how the rest of the NFL turns out this year? I have no idea. The Patriots look like they're in the tank. There's so many teams. The Detroit Lions look disciplined. Wow, believe that or not. The Miami Dolphins are 3-0. The Miami Dolphins are 3-0. And everyone thought they would be terrible. So I really have no handle on the NFL, and I think a lot of the coaches are scratching their head as well. So with that, I'll leave it open to questions. Let's get our microphone over there. Mr. Keitel, wherever you got it.
Ed, what's going on with the Saints defensive front? It's no pressure.
Right. Well, I think that's a good point, FJ. And, you know, people are already blaming Marcus Davenport for that. He got his first sack last week. One thing I will tell you, and I think I've relayed this story to this club before, In 1989, the Saints drafted Wayne Martin in the first round. And I remember seeing Wayne Martin in his rookie year, and I said, you know what? I don't know if this guy's ever going to be a player in this league. And within a year or two, Wayne Martin was one of the best interior pass rushers in the NFL. He was incredible. So what I'm saying is, I think there's a little bit of a gestation period when it comes to defensive linemen in this league. And look, other teams are going to do everything they can to take Cam Jordan out of the game. So I think what the Saints need is, something Coach Orgeron referenced on Monday. We were up in his press conference yesterday. He said, we need more push from our interior defensive line. More of a rush of the quarterback from the interior defensive line. And I think that's what the Saints need as well. But there's no question, look, the DBs are not playing well. They're making some mistakes. But when you start getting heat on the quarterback, a lot of that changes. And I think that's an area that they're going to have to improve, hopefully quickly, because let's face it, the meat of the schedule is coming up. Now I say that, okay, but then I watched the Buffalo Bills shut out the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. And I've never seen a team so inept at home. The Vikings could do nothing. So, like I said before, who knows in this league? Yes, sir.
He stole a little of my thunder about the line, so I won't go there. But related to it, it almost scares me they don't talk about the rush as much as they do being so bad. But I know they know that's a problem.
Right.
I just don't hear it much. What bothers me, and you're right, you put 8 in the back to watch 5 receivers, and they're going to get open. You can put 10 back there. When you have no rush, he has all day.
Well, the problem, the problem with that play is that if you go back and look at the video, if you go back and look at the all-22 copy, the defensive back who was covering Callaway was looking at the quarterback. And that was that's a kill right there. That was the problem on that play. But yes, sir.
Another thing that bothers me is you're getting burned anyway. So why they don't blitz more? The fear is you blitz, you get burned. Well, it's happening. Give it a shot. What do you feel about that?
Well, I wouldn't blitz more with that secondary. Okay? Unless I was the defensive coordinator and said, you know what, at the end of the season, I really want to get fired. I wouldn't do that. Yes, sir.
You were talking about that Buffalo winner. They were a 16-point underdog.
Sure.
And they won by 20. That was the biggest swing in history.
I know guys who used to be at the fairgrounds and would call their bookmaker on the payphone and try to bet the race after it ended. And I was watching that game and I said, boy, I wish I had a few hundred on Buffalo today in the first quarter. Maybe I'll call a guy and he won't even know at the game started. But
here's another stat. I want to know if you got this. What quarterback is the only one to throw for 400 yards in 3 consecutive games?
This year?
All time. All time.
All time, I have no idea.
It's Fitzgerald for Tampa.
Yeah.
He's the only one that's ever done it.
Yeah, but Fitzpatrick, but they turned the ball over 3 times last night. Here's another thing about Drew Brees. 8 touchdown passes thus far, no interceptions. And he's completing 80.6% of his passes. That sounds to me like a guy who's a problem and needs to be replaced.
And so I'm agreeing with you 100% about Brees. And so my concern is why we gave up our future picks to get Bridgewater in.
Because, well, I agree with the Bridgewater trade 100%. And here's why. I think Bridgewater is at the very least a good quarterback in this league, but I think Bridgewater has upside. And I like Bridgewater. He was not around great players in Minnesota when he was there, but still started 30 games in the league. And I think he's a good gambler. Number 1, I think he's smart. Number 2, I think he's accurate. And he's tough. Look at the injury he came back from. And if you look at his tape in the preseason, he played pretty well. So here's the deal. There's a chance that he's the replacement for Brees. And if that's the case, he's going to come at a lot lower price than what some of these other teams that traded to get up. So I don't disagree with that at all. I think he was a lot better as a 3rd-round pick than Garrett Grayson, to be honest with you. Anybody else?
Right here, Ed.
Yes, sir.
I was just wondering, with our secondary getting burnt the way they are, why don't the Saints ever draft some of these defensive backs from LSU?
That's a good question. You know, here's the deal. They couldn't get Jamal Adams last year because they weren't in the top 5. So, you know, there's a couple of guys I wish they'd have gotten along the way. Yeah, no doubt. But, hey, look, they got Lattimore last year. Lattimore's turned out to be a very good player. I don't think he's playing on the level he was playing last year yet, but we only have 3 games. You know, look, they made an aggressive move this year in the draft and a gamble to go up, trade a #1 pick for next year to go up and get Davenport. That they showed you that they thought they were close to winning a Super Bowl when they were trying to improve their pass rush. So,
Well, I was wondering why they didn't take our own Riverdale High's Dante Jackson last year.
well, I think he was a late 2nd round pick, and I don't think, did the Saints have a 2nd round pick last year? Didn't. No, it was 1, and then Traquan Smith was a 3. So I think that's why they didn't do that, because he was gone. Sean Payton thought this year that he had a very good team, unlike Mark Sanchez, who convinced me in May that they were absolutely inept and terrible, and they had no chance.
Ed,
Guys need to watch out for him. He's a slick operator. Yes, sir.
Concerning the LHSAA and the kid from Hodville, the quarterback, who was
Yes.
declared ineligible, what's your thoughts on that and the future of LHSAA? And we had the 2 Catholic school rivals there. Do you see a further split where they're totally disassociated? What have you heard?
I think it's time for a new league. I know there are many people in this room who would respectfully disagree with me, but I think that boat sailed in January of 2013. So we're almost 6 years later, and I think it's time for a new league. It's never going to get back together again, and I know never's a long time, and that's a bold statement to make. But when I say never, I mean never. Okay? Never. So my grandson won't see it. Let's just put it that way. As far as the LHSAA and the thing with the young man from Hanville, here's the thing that I think is important. We don't know what was said in executive session. We don't know all the facts. Therefore, I think it's very important, okay, not to jump off the deep end and make a judgment either way about what has happened yet. I don't know if we'll ever know all the facts, but I'm told there are other facts involved. I don't know. I think it's a shame that the young man is not on the field, because I think he needs to be playing football. But I do know that there's a process to go through, and maybe if I were at another school and that school would not sign the concurrence form, maybe the best thing to do would be to hold off and ask for a ruling. I don't know. But, you know, everybody talks about, well, it's just about a picture with a jersey, okay? The only thing I can say about that is, how do we know for sure? How do we know for sure? I don't know all the facts, and you know, at some point we have attorneys in this room. At some point, maybe we'll get to all the facts at some point in an open courtroom. I don't know. But until then, I think it's very important to be measured about what we say and what we report in that area. But I do think it is disappointing that the young man is out the whole year. I wish they could have found a way to get him on the field at some point, with the inability maybe to go back to Vanderbilt as a mitigating issue. But you know, people were asking me before the appeal what I thought was going to happen, and I told our reporter who went up there, Karen Loftus, I said, it will be unanimous, and they will deny it. Watch what I'm telling you. That's what happened. Unfortunate. Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on the Saints linebacker?
Well, they have a bunch of linebackers. I'm not sure if they have any great ones. So, you know, in the NFL, that's kind of a position really that's underserved, in my opinion. Everybody wants to talk about cover corners and pass rushers. So, you know, they've gone out and tried to improve that area, and I think they have. With Klein and DeMario Davis and Manti, I think they've improved in that area. But to me, when you look at what the Saints do in the talent procurement area, what are the areas that they draft the most? Well, I can tell you what they're going to do. Defensive backs, believe it or not. Tall wide receivers. If you're not 6'2", you beat out a block. Okay, tall wide receivers, defensive backs, offensive linemen, because their philosophy is that the only way we can get a super talented guy in those positions, they don't come available in free agency, we have to draft them. Yes, sir.
Two quickies. Smith for the Saints. What's the deal? He was stretching. He had a great range, catching everything.
Right.
And you don't hear from him.
Well, first of all, there's a lot of hype about the guy in training camp, about what he's doing. And the only thing I can tell you is that preseason far different than the regular season. All right, I go back to a guy, remember Onome Ojo? One training camp, that's all I heard. I was like, I told all the reporters around me, how many more Ojo stories are we going to have? I was derisively giving those guys a hard time. And then all of a sudden the game started, and you know what? He's not active. Wait a minute, what happened here? Again, you're talking about rookies, and I wouldn't dismiss the guy. I just think that some guys are on a different caliber than others.
The other part is your feelings on the Warren Easton Curtis game Thursday.
I think that'll be a very good game. The one thing that Warren Easton will have to do is they will have to be good enough up front to handle Curtis's offensive and defensive lines. Because Curtis is very solid up front. I think this is one of JT's better teams up front. Anybody else? Well, also, are our scholar athletes still here? I'd like to congratulate our scholar athletes again. And whatever you do, make sure that you help somebody in school like I did with Ken Trahan at both Rummel and Loyola.